Chapter 10. Out of Bounds. Wheeler's arrest was not actually tied to the outcome of the coroner's inquest, although its timing seemed more than coincidental. In the Venn diagram of Annie Kempton's murder investigation, the spheres representing the coroner and law enforcement never overlapped. The stuttering transition to a medical examiner system had muddied the waters for the province's chief death investigators and curtailed the coroner's scope. Dr. Lovett was empowered to convene an inquest, subpoena witnesses, and hear sworn testimony. He lacked the power of arrest, however, an authority squarely within the realm of police. Nor could Lovett indict, much less try or convict, anyone of a crime, and regardless of the inquest's verdict, the coroner had no direct power to dole out punishment. Detective Nick Power knew this but gambled the press did not, or rather would not care about such subtle distinctions. The media saw only an appointed official questioning witnesses and rendering a verdict. It was therefore troubling, but not at all surprising, when the following day's headlines declared, "Wheeler is the murderer of Annie Kempton." There was no hedging or equivocation to the pronouncement. In the decades before enforced libel laws and defamation suits brought the media to heel, there was little incentive to hide behind terms like alleged or reportedly. The headline was a precise, unwavering statement of fact: Wheeler had done it. So said the coroner and his jury. So said Detective Power. So said the people of Bear River. And thus, on February 1st, less than 72 hours after Annie's body was discovered, so said the Morning Chronicle. In fact, Dr. Lovett and his jury had not declared Wheeler to be the murderer. They only suspected him of the crime, but such legal hair-splitting does not sell newspapers. The press members took it upon themselves to turn suspicion into proof, a curious brand of alchemy unique to the media. In the rush to judgment, however, few noticed that the only evidence against Wheeler was the perception that he had lied to Tilly to get Annie home alone. Such slim speculation was soon crushed under the same wheels that had obliterated the concepts of innocent until proven guilty and due process. The gloves were off and the rules of fair play no longer applied. All agreed Wheeler was the killer and the print media were under no obligation, other than that of simple human decency, to suggest otherwise. As headlines go, it was a barn-burner. The Chronicle's ink-stained muckrakers no doubt soothed whatever qualms they had by claiming they catered to the greater public good. The outraged citizens of Bear River demanded swift and decisive justice and the region's news organs felt compelled to provide it at any cost. There was comfort in having absolute certainty so soon after the tragedy, not for Wheeler, of course, but for the family and community so traumatized by the heinous event. Canada's newspapers had learned well the lessons of Jack the Ripper. Murder sells, to be sure, but an unsolved murder soon leaves a populace uneasy. Morbid fascination, and sales, quickly waned if all that was on offer was speculation and uncertainty. It was far better to have a clearly identified culprit, a focus for the community's anger and anguish. Public fear was only assuaged once the fiend was safely behind bars. Polite society could breathe easier, no longer forced to lock their doors at night against the unknown. As for Detective Power, the media's response fit perfectly into his scheme of things. Once Wheeler was in custody, there was no need to look for alternative suspects. With blinders firmly in place, the crack gumshoe now set about proving Wheeler's guilt, a decidedly easier task than actually solving Annie's murder. Power may have been single-minded, but he was not working single-handed. He was joined by Mr. Charles Dunn, who has connections with the American Detective Agency, although that was later amended to the Amherst Detective Agency. The hows and whys of Mr. Dunn's involvement are now lost in the mists of time. In all reports on the case, official as well as media, Dunn was the recessive gene of the investigation, present but with no tangible influence. Whatever Dunn's contributions, Power ultimately took, or was given, the credit. It is heartbreaking to think, given how events unfolded, that it all began with an unrecognized but entirely avoidable error by a novice coroner. Dr. Lovett, conducting his very first homicide investigation, overstepped the bounds of his authority, which was simply to determine the cause and manner of Annie's death. Based on the autopsy findings, the cause of Annie's demise was the knife wounds to her throat. The manner of death, the way in which the cause came into being, was homicide, the actions of another. That was the sum of what Lovett needed to decide. The rest was simply the overreaching of a neophyte, however well-intentioned. More than just an issue of semantics, the line Lovett crossed is crucial to any system of jurisprudence. Homicide is a medico-legal manner of death system of jurisprudence. Homicide is a medico-legal manner of death, recognizing another person's responsibility for the demise. Murder is a specific legal charge, indicating the perpetrator acted with intent. All murders are homicides, but not all homicides are murders. Lovett was within his rights to declare Annie's death a homicide, rather than an accident or a suicide. However, it did not fall to Lovett to rule that it was murder, a legal designation far outside his wheelhouse, nor was it Lovett's place to actually identify a suspect or declare him guilty. Having exceeded his authority, Lovett became a catalyst, the first tipped domino in a cascade that ultimately ended with a noose around Peter Wheeler's neck. That no one recognized the gravity of Lovett's error suggests incompetence, indifference, or, most worrisome of all, a wanton disregard for the rule of law and Wheeler's civil rights. Lovett's mistake was the tinder, but the ensuing inferno was fed by the media. Allowing every benefit of the doubt, Lovett's rookie mistake can be chalked up to the youthful indiscretion of an inexperienced doctor. It was a blunder, but initially, it was a contained one, known only to those present in the Bear River Academy that dark January night. It was not until the press broadcast Lovett's error to the province and beyond that the real damage was done. The media's blatant misrepresentation of the ruling smacked of exploitation and malfeasance and obliterated any possibility of ultimately righting the wrong. In declaring Wheeler's guilt, the Chronicle and its ilk did not merely taint any future jury pool, they poisoned it beyond repair. Theirs was a policy of scorched earth and salted ground. With Lovett's misstep providing ample cover, the media publicly hung Peter Wheeler long before the sheriff finally got around to doing it.